Hello, hello, and welcome to the first episode of Virtual Equity. My name is Lindsay, and I am here today with my co-host, Nicole Evans. Hello.
Hi.
All right, so today is our first episode, and we have titled it To Be a Great Recruiter, You Have to Know a Great Recruiter. And so today we are going to interview Nicole. I wrote down four questions for her to think about yesterday. And told her that I was going to ask her those questions today. So, just so everybody knows, I am in healthcare staffing. I started working in healthcare staffing about 6 years ago. And I have interviewed a lot of recruiters. And through my time interviewing recruiters, I have realized that it's really hard sometimes to translate recruiting experience outside of our healthcare staffing industry. And Nicole has been here for about 2 years now, and she's done a really great job of converting her knowledge from recruiting into healthcare recruiting. So, Nicole, we're going to start with the first question that I have for you today, which is tell us a little bit about you and your background in recruiting.
So I have been primarily in staffing. I would say close to almost 20 years now. I would say 15. Let's go with 15, right? Let's go 15. So I honestly so I'm originally from New Jersey, and I started at a staffing company in New Jersey, front desk, kind of just taking applications on a floppy disk, if that ages me a little bit, right? So I did that, and I gradually started moving a little bit more into recruiting, starting to interview for more kind of executive type positions, scientific positions, but we also did some distribution positions there. I then decided to move to North Carolina, and I moved there, and I went into actually to apply at a staff. I did not have anything lined up when I moved there. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I do? So I went to a staffing agency to apply for a job. There was no game plan. And I interviewed at a staffing agency on a Friday. And that Friday, they asked me, can you start Monday next week? So within a week, I had something lined up. Again, started at front desk. Um, with this company, I moved up. So I moved into, I started taking applications, paper applications, importing them into the system. Um, and then I gradually moved into recruiting. Then I moved into more of an account management position. From account management, I moved into a branch manager position. I had a couple of years of a gap because I did live overseas for a couple of years. When I came back, I actually came back to the same company. And again, it was more of the market management, operations side, and eventually I went into HR. And from there, I came here. Well, I'm here where I am now. And it's my first true kind of deep dive into healthcare staffing, which is a completely different beast in terms of recruitment.
And so I do have a question, a follow-up question to that. What what are your thoughts about translating your recruiting experience into healthcare recruiting? Like, what advice would you have for somebody who has traditional recruiting experience to be able to like translate that? And maybe for those of you who don't know healthcare staffing, it's extremely fast paced, but you still have to recruit. Like you have to recruit, you just have to be super fast at it. So you have to be fast at building relationships, fast at connecting, fast at getting people to commit to you, have everything ready so that you can be the first to submit and the first to take offers. Would you say that's probably accurate?
Yep, that's pretty accurate for my team.
So when I interview people who do traditional, even people who are like, "Oh yeah, I've staffed healthcare," a lot of times when I ask them questions like, "Okay, so like how long does it typically take for you from start to finish? Like talking to the traveler, getting their resume built, getting them submitted, getting an answer from the facility and getting them offered." And I typically hear things like, "Oh, well, it takes me about 1 to 2 weeks to like connect with the traveler, another week or two to build their resume, another week or two to kind of get them submitted to the right place and talk to the facility." And what I have found is like that has to be within 1 to 2 weeks, not 1 to 2 months. Like I need somebody not interviewing in 30 days, but interviewing in 1 to 2 days, right? So how do you translate or how do you coach the recruiters through translating recruiting experience and shifting that into like healthcare and that speed aspect that is kind of required?
I think truly I think the op tempo has to be set by the organization. And if you're allowing recruiters to take 2 months to submit and to get profiles built, then that's really on management in allowing that to happen, right? I think in terms of recruiting has always, at least for me, so I did a lot of distribution, general labor recruiting, right? That's how I started. And there was no, it was a 24 to 48 hour fill, and 48 hours was the stretch. That was like you're cutting it very close. So it was always about building pipelines and being prepared and being proactive instead of reactive. Um, so for someone who is looking to go into maybe move from traditional recruiting, I think some of the kind of core skills that they would need is that attention to detail. I think learning the specialties, learning what you're looking for. And to be honest, even for me, sometimes that could be difficult to learn all the different nuances, all the different equipment, all the things that they're doing, because I feel like to be a good recruiter, you have to truly understand the roles you're recruiting for. And healthcare is so vast, and it's also not something that the general public deals with, right? It's very easy to be like, I'm looking for someone to work on a dock. I'm looking for a forklift operator. I feel like those are things that are very quick to be like, yeah, I can figure that out. Versus when they're like, hey, you need this very specific specialty. They have to have this equipment experience. They have to have this many years. Well, general experience. And they also, on top of that, have to have the travel experience. And are they prepared for this? Do they have this licensing? So I think it's being able to understand that you're going to have to do some research to understand the roles that you are going to be trying to fill. As soon as you understand the roles, I think it's going to be much easier for someone to source candidates and be able to move at a quicker pace, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I will say I know that Nicole and I, we actually work with the team together, and one of our biggest things when the industry shifted was letting our recruiters know like you should not be getting off phone calls without calls to action. Why are you not getting resumes on the first, second phone call? So I know Nicole's been really big on pushing them like have the conversation and have the ask. Like ask them for that and that way you can keep moving them forward. Nicole, why do you love recruiting and account management and staffing in general?
I think I love the problem solving aspect of it. I think and I think truly that's what in general, I feel like staffing agencies a lot of times get a lot of flack. And there's a stigma behind either going to a staffing agency, using a staffing agency, or how agencies operate. But I think if you get to the core of recruiting, it's really like, how can I help you? How can I serve you? How can I bridge a gap between the issues that you have and the candidates that I have, right? And it's really just I love it when you have a really hard position to fill and we're struggling. We haven't been able to find this person, and you just find that diamond in the rough, and you're like, I have the perfect candidate for you. And then a couple months down the road, or maybe like a year down the road, it's like you get that message. Thank you so much for connecting me with this person or connecting me with this employer. Um, I'm doing so well and I love it here. And you start getting those referrals. People are like, hey, this person knows what they're doing. They care. So that's what I like about it. I think that it's never dull. There's always something different. There's always new roles that come up. There's always someone to help. And you get to serve both a client and you get to serve, two clients. You have two clients when you're a recruiter. You have your candidates and then you have your customer that you're placing people at. So I think you really get to deal with the two sides of the coin. And I've always loved that.
Great. What are three things a recruiter must do to be successful?
I think the main one is they must have strong communication skills. They have to be able to communicate and connect with people, and be approachable, whatever that may be, whatever position they're looking to place, whatever candidate, you have to be relatable. You have to be able to really connect with them, get to know them, understand what it is that they're looking for. And also, I think you have to be a problem solver. Uh, a lot of times you're going to get deadlines, you're going to encounter last minute issues that you have to not, it's almost like love the chaos, right? Like it's like here's a problem, here's a fire, cool. I'll put that out. I'll take care of it, and you have to be able to react quickly. So if you don't like problem solving, recruiting is probably not for you, just because you have to be able to think quick on your feet. I think that's the main thing, and always kind of have a backup plan, and then have a backup plan to the backup plan type of thing. I think lastly, you have to be disciplined. I think another reason that I love recruiting is it's competitive. I have a competitive nature. I want to win. Um, and it's something that you have to work hard at, but you can win. There is a win. There is a way to achieve something, right? Each and every time. But I think you have to be disciplined because the placements will motivate you, but I feel like that motivation isn't long term. And you're going to hit it's like a roller coaster, right? And it's like you have that high, and then you're like, that was it. Like, what comes next? And it's like that's constantly what recruiting is going to be like. It's a roller coaster, and you have to be disciplined enough to make the phone calls, do the follow up, make the placements, build the relationships. If you're someone who has a short attention span, it can be detrimental to the overall goal, right? So those are the three things I think. You have strong communication, you have to be disciplined, and what was the third one I said?
Yeah, discipline and problem solver. I think you didn't say
Think on your feet, right? That's kind of like, yeah. And then problem
Yeah.
solver.
Yeah, I have to agree with all those things. I mean, I know you and I have talked a lot about struggling with team members who are not problem solvers who like can't think on their feet. I know we've been working a lot about coming up with things on your own like quickly. And we've talked about using improv as a way to learn to think quickly on your toes, fill in the gaps so there's not a whole lot of ums and likes, and being able to be relatable and moving the conversations forward. So I really appreciate that today. You had a lot to say, and I keep saying them. I'm like, let's fill in the gaps, and I'm like, that's okay. All right. So I greatly appreciate you going through all of these things. I did write down that at the end of each of the podcast episodes, we are going to give a recruiting tip. This tip is definitely Nicole's tip. She gave it to our team. And I think currently only one person did it, but I think they even got a referral from it. But in your signature, your email signature specifically is what you had told the team, is to put something along the lines of maybe like Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas, and that the best gift you can give me is a referral. Do you want to tell us kind of how you came up with that, or where did you see that? And how is it being implemented? How is it working for the team?
I feel like I fall back on a lot of things. It's just, and I think you and I have been enough meetings together where things just come up. And I'm just like, let's do this. And you're like, that's a great idea. I'm like, cool, I just thought of it. There's no backup to any of what I'm saying. I think I've seen it. I don't think it's something completely different. I think in this industry, we all kind of, it's word of mouth, right? It's like it's especially as things are changing, the environment is changing, people want someone that they know they can rely on. And that's the main thing about referrals. It's like if you ask for a referral and someone feels like they like you enough to be like, this person knows what they're doing. I think that speaks volumes, right, of you and your character and who you are and what kind of work you're going to put in for someone. So yeah, I mean, I think it's always, as a recruiter, I think you have to skill market yourself too, right? You're not just skill marketing your candidates, you're skill marketing yourself, and you're putting yourself out there. And I know that's hard for some people. It's hard to be like, I'm the best and I'm great. And even when you're like, we're interviewing you, I'm like, oh, great. It's hard to be on the other side, right? It's so easy to go in an interview and you always know that the person is probably freaking out on the other side. And it's so weird being in the hot seat, the metaphorical hot seat, and getting asked the question. So, but yeah, I think referrals are probably the greatest things that a recruiter can get just because it does half the job for you, right? The person already knows that you're someone they want to work with because your friend or colleague or whoever recommended you. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I know our team builds their desk a lot on referrals. I know one of our team members had one traveler alone send her probably 20 different referrals as she was able to staff over time. So referrals are definitely king. Well, Nicole, I greatly appreciate you answering the questions. I know I put you on the hot seat by being like, "Hey, I'm going to ask you these questions." But I do want you to go ahead and let everybody know how can they find you on social media. Haha, on the spot again.
Probably on LinkedIn,
Okay,
just for Nicole Evans. And I will be there.
that sounds great. All right, you guys. So this is the end of our first episode, and catch us again next week when we post our second episode.
Thank you.